Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Investigative journalist Jim Mars in this short segment. We'll get into the world economy, the wars, all of it with him in the next. But Jim, I talked about this yesterday. Obviously, it's getting a lot of news coverage, but they're trying to spin it. But this former Goldman Sachs high-level managing director, in fact, guys, will you re-pull me those articles from yesterday, and there's new ones today, thank you, comes out and says, yeah, no, they call everyone scum, and we're here to rip everyone off, and it's a culture where they don't want to make their clients money, they want to rip them off, which people go, that's not a very good business model. Well, no, it's the biggest, because they've got super high-frequency computers that only they're allowed to use. So the whole market, the whole stock market now is a complete joke.
Yeah. For years, people, I guess because I write books, they think I know something. And people say, you know, what stock should I invest in? And Alex, for years, I've told them, go to Las Vegas. The odds are better there.
Well, no, but that's it. But, I mean, we had the Timberwolf emails that were a division of Goldman Sachs, where they literally are like, I'm going to sell these morons scum total crud and bet against it. Ha ha! I mean, it is just a insane level of corruption. And
you realize Goldman Sachs was at the bottom, so to speak, of the Gulf oil explosion and the contamination of the whole Gulf. And they now have some of the internal memos, and one of the Goldman Sachs execs was saying, yeah, bye-bye fishies. You know, they don't care. They don't care.
They're crazy people. They're like, I don't care if reactors we own are blowing up. Who cares if my kids breathe it? I mean, it's just, they're nuts.
They really are. This even, to me, goes beyond greed. I mean, greed's one thing, but hey, Alex, you're from Texas, and you know a little bit about Texas history. Texas was built by entrepreneurs and you know, corporate guys, basically. They call them trusts then. Railroad, cattle, oil. Okay, and these guys made millions, and they were tough, and they would screw you over in a heartbeat. But they also knew, like their fathers and grandfathers who were farmers, they knew you have to let the field lie fallow one season so that it gives you a bumper crop the next. They knew, and that's why so many of the wealthy oil guys in Texas would turn around and put money into the arts, into the symphony, into the operas, into the culture of the town, because they knew that when they built up and helped prosper the golden goose, they'd get more golden eggs. But you don't see that today. It goes beyond greed. They are just, it's like, hey, nothing's going to last. Let's get our last penny out of everything.
Exactly. I mean, you have really, I think, hit a deep truth here, driven the nail right through the board, that, I mean, other elites are boss hoggish and corrupt, but they still like seeing people doing well. They like building big palaces. They understand a rising tide raises the ships. And when they get in control, a lot of times strongmen in history have actually made things better, kind of the philosopher king in a way, because they want to see things prosper, kind of like Gaddafi. Not saying he's a good guy, but compared to the globalist, he was good. The globalists really do want to wreck everything. They're psychos. I was, I'm not going to get into it. I was at an elite party last night I got taken to, and there were like some of the biggest people in the IT world there. And they were acting like little kids, hopping around like crazy people for 3 hours in front of me. And it was funny in a way. And I was about to shoot a YouTube video, and somebody goes, don't do that. But, I mean, I'm going, this is who's running things?
Really. But you know what? I think if you look around, I think I'm losing count. But right now there's like over 250 resignations of bank money managers, some of these top guys. It's like the rats are deserting the ship. Do you get that impression?
Yes, and in fact, that's been pointed out that hundreds are leaving. Why do you think that's happening? They don't want to get the blame for what's coming?
Exactly. They don't want to have to be put in the stocks or put a noose around their necks, so they're getting out. They see the whole thing crumbling. In fact, it's all just kind of, the whole world economy right now, as far as I can tell, is kind of held together with, spit and glue.
All I know is when you're watching, billionaires juggling glasses and apples and running around crazy at parties with the energy of 5-year-olds, and then you talk to these people, and and you're like, they must not be running things, or I guess they're blowing off steam. I mean, I more and more I understand it's like the elite are in control, and there are some of them that are actually trying to run things, but more and more of the elite are just like running around like crazy people. Do you see what I'm saying, Jim?
Absolutely. In fact, it reminds me of my study of the last days of Hitler's Third Reich. Down in the bunkers in Berlin and all like that, they weren't sitting around moping. They were getting drunk and partying and,
exactly.
Stay
hey, there.
Listen.
Stay. That's exactly what's going on. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The point is, it is always darkest before the dawn. But I'm here to give you the good news. There is a giant awakening. The bad news is the evil knows that and is... just like Jim just said, it's going more crazy now. The system, in the face of this, is just going wild. And like he said, in the Nazi bunkers, not just there in Berlin, but at others, there was sex, partying, delusions that they were going to win, imaginary armies. And it's like Nero or Rome. I mean, I'm seeing craziness. Just a few years ago, the elite were more scared. Now I think they realize they don't control stuff like they thought. So now they're just going into crazy land. Jim Mars, you've got the floor on that subject. Guys, we need to fade him up. I'm sorry. Go ahead and start over, Jim.
Oh, am I on?
Yeah, you're on. Go ahead.
I tell you what, the one that's blown me away is Defense Secretary Leon Panetta goes to Afghanistan, and they disarm the Marines around him. They made them stack their arms, and they wouldn't let him get anywhere near him with weapons. And I was in the military, and the thing they drum into your head incessantly is, you don't do anything. You don't go to the bathroom without your weapon handy, okay? You just don't do it. And they disarm the Marines around Panetta. Who is he scared of, okay? What more do you need? That they disarm our own troops around the defense secretary because they know the troops are beginning to figure out that 2 and 2 is not 5.
I think you're right. I started the show with this today. The magnitude that the Associated Press, London Telegraph are all reporting and admitting that, and the Pentagon admits the troops cannot be trusted. Well, that's why they say the troops are the #1 enemy, because they know these are killing machines that are going to wake up to the fact that the evil empire took over America, and the fact that they're scared of the troops. And by the way, police, they hate you too. Anybody who's been taught to use force, and anybody who knows the secret that the veneer of civilization is very thin and that you're not afraid to use violence, these little criminals hate you, as Henry Kissinger said, and want to kill you. And that's why they inject you with soft-kill cancer viruses when you're in the military. Now, there are ways to try to counteract that, but we've got it on record. Everyone that joins the military, unless they're part of an elite family, is given soft-kill binary weapon systems so that by the time you hit 40 or 50, you start degenerating. It's a self-destruct mechanism. You're a robot that's meant to shut down because they know you're going to become self-aware. Most humans, I found, are unconscious and are basically biological androids. When you become illuminated, and again, the Illuminati creates counterfeits of everything real. When you become awake, that's self-aware. Not all humans are really self-aware. They're trying to keep you from becoming self-aware with this whole control system. And with the military, they know you're becoming self-aware, so they're building kill switches in. What do you think about that, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is corporate mentality taken to the nth degree. You create this killing machine, and then you program it to self-destruct, and that way you don't have to pay a lot of medical expenses and VA treatments and, retirement, get rid of them. And all you have to do is, and you have, Alex, and the people who have followed you for some time, all you have to do is look at their own publications, look at the statements from people like Maxwell Taylor or Prince Philip, or look at some of the publications from the Council on Foreign Relations. I mean, they make no bones about it. They want to reduce the world's population by at least a third, maybe 2/3. And wait a minute, how you going to do that? You got to kill people, and that's what they're into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Saddam Hussein. CIA on record, put into power. That whole history's there, but not publicized. And he could go out and stand in front of 10,000 people with grenade launchers and AK-47s firing in the air. But the defense secretary says, disarm the Marines when my helicopter lands.
Exactly. Now, here's another disconnect. Wait a minute. Excuse me. My allergies are going nuts.
Oak, man, it's hitting me hard as well.
Yep. Okay, here's another disconnect. Now, think about this. We're in Afghanistan to begin with because we went in there to get Osama bin Laden. Well, oops, wait a minute. We didn't get him. If we did get him, according to the official story, we got him here, last year. And we've already got him, and if you really study it, you'll find he's probably been dead since December of 2001. But anyway, so the cause celebre for going to Afghanistan is no longer there. So what's the rationale for us keeping troops in Afghanistan, a country that's never been conquered by anybody, including the British Empire and the Russian Empire? All right? Well, it's because we say, well, we can't pull our troops out until the army, the Afghan army and the police forces are able to maintain control in that country, which sounds good on paper, but wait a minute, folks. Hadn't you been reading the papers? It's some of those Army guys and some of those police guys have been shooting at us. They want us out of their country, and I don't blame them. I'd want Red China out of Texas, okay? And yet we don't seem to catch this. Oh, well, we got to stay there so we can train their people. What, train them so they can kill us and shoot at us? The whole thing's nuts.
Well, see, people are like, we're losing in Afghanistan. We're not, because we're not there. The global bankers have got our military there to get the $500 billion a year conservatively in opium. That again, they get exposed growing it. So they go, well, the troops are getting upset about growing the opium. We'll have them form up in front of Geraldo Rivera. We'll have them admit it on TV. And the psych warfare chiefs are like, what's the point of that? Don't you get it? Hide it in plain view. It loses its power.
That's right. And that's why, by the way, that's why the famous football star, Pat Tillman, he told all his buddies, man, when I get out, I'm going to go home and tell everybody we're just over here guarding the poppy fields. And, oops, well, he's shot in the head coming back from some routine mission by some snipers who just happened to have just joined his outfit. Come on, folks, wake up, smell the coffee.
Yeah, he was a big PR bonanza for him, but...
Going in, but they didn't want him coming out.
But in his murder, at first they launched, he charged single-handedly an al-Qaeda nest. Bin Laden might have even been there. Literally, he was incredible, the fire he took and how many al-Qaedas he took out. Turned out there was no one around. They killed him. He hid behind a rock, saying after they'd already shot him a few times, and they came up and they killed him.
Right.
And then the Army, the good news is the Army coroner, the colonel, would not lie and said this is homicide.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of taps to the head. I don't think those Taliban are that good of shots. Besides that, according to the reports I saw, he was heading back and he was waving his arms and he said, hey, it's me, it's Pat Tillman, you know me. Bam, bam, they shoot him. Come on, folks. Get with it. Of course, then all they got to do is throw some money and have a TV special or some specially made movie and turn the whole thing around and put the, cover it all
Look
up.
at how they killed 5 members of Private Lynch's unit. The survivors were like, she hid, she didn't fight anybody. They're like, oh, you're all dead.
Right. Well, same deal. Hey, a bunch of those guys that supposedly went in and got Osama bin Laden, well, gee, they got killed in a helicopter crash.
Yeah, they just crammed 23 of them onto an old rickety helicopter. They're like, but on the news, they were going to a rescue mission to rescue people in the Army. And then later was like, well, that wasn't true.
Right.
And then I've talked.
I mean, I don't know why anybody believes anything anymore. Hey, Alex, my motto has become, I don't believe anything's true until the government denies it.
Exactly. Hey, let's bring this up. Because it's so big, I want to go back to it. Soldiers asked to disarm during Leon Panetta's speech in Afghanistan, and they said for the safety of the Secretary of Defense. This is a guy who announced last week that, yes, the military is under UN command and the Congress has no authority over that.
Exactly. I'm sure his hidden thought was, oh, my God, what if they arrest me for treason? Because that's treasonous, folks. Okay? The Constitution says only Congress has the power to declare war. Now, they've abdicated that time after time, going all the way back to the phony Gulf of Tonkin incident, which didn't even happen. And then, but Lyndon Johnson says, our boys are floating in the water, and I got to have the power to respond. So they passed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution in Congress, which gave him the power to wage war in Vietnam, okay? And it was all based on a lie and a total phony thing, and that's not some conspiracy theory. That was an article in U.S. News and World Report 10 or 15 years ago. The phony battle that led to war, okay? It's just fact. And but at least Congress acted, even though irresponsibly. But now, Panetta, before Congress, says, no, we only send the military in when foreign organizations approve that, like the UN or NATO. Okay? A direct violation of the Constitution of the United States. And I know when I went in the Army, I took an oath to defend not the President, not the Secretary of the Defense, but the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And I'm here to tell you, Leon Panetta and about three-quarters of Congress are domestic enemies.
They are. I mean, by the very textbook, in fact, it's not just like Caesar taking over and saying, I'm the king. That's bad enough. At least he was Roman. They're saying, no, we work for foreign powers. And the Senate's like, well, that violates Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11. They're like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't trust the troops around us with guns now.
Yeah, take those guns away from those Marines. You know, they might actually take their oath to the Constitution seriously.
Well, that shows their NSA chatter that the military, and that's what I get. I got to say, the troops I talk to, especially they're actually combat troops. I mean, I run into some of these pencil pushers. Or
rear echelon guys.
Yeah, who literally don't know how to lace up their own boots. But when you run into real soldiers, I got to say, they're almost all of them are awake. I don't really run into any of them that are idiots. I mean, compared to the public, the military is completely awake. I guess they live in the real world.
Well, I wonder if that's why that the most campaign contributions from the rank and file of the Army, Navy, and Air Force have gone to Ron Paul.
Boy,
the one guy who's talking truth and who says we don't need to be fighting in those other countries.
Well, I tell you, Ron Paul has come out, but now it's not getting media attention. He has been defrauded. He did win in the early states, and they just blacked it out.
Well, that's it. So no, they're disarming our soldiers and then shooting them up with deadly vaccines and all kinds of test experimental drugs, and then they're taking our vote away from us, and yet everybody's just going along, you know. Hey, everyone that's listening to this program, take it upon yourself to go out and try to wake up one other person. Just one other person, okay? Just say, hey, ask them, hey, if we're supposed to be so afraid of terrorists, how come they won't secure the border? And ask them, hey, what about that third tower that went down in New York on 9/11? You know, do you know about that? Well, look into it. You know, try to get them waked up. There's more of us than there are of them. And if we just say no, it all come to a screeching halt. But
are you seeing the big awakening I'm seeing, Jim?
Oh, absolutely. I see it all over the place. The problem is everybody thinks they're alone. They don't, and because you don't see it on the mass corporate media.
It's like Ceausescu in Romania. But finally, when most people stood up, it's like, wow, you don't like the government either?
Really. It's all there. And they just got us cowed, and they've got us bamboozled. I mean, think about the last few months.
Stay there. We're going to come right back, Jim.
Okay.
Jim Martin's with us 5 minutes the next hour. Then we've got former Congressman Bob Barr on about the TSA, the police state, and more. I forget the point you were getting to, and we went to break and you got cut off, but I got to raise this. This Coney 2012 thing with George Bush in it and all these globalists, it's just a convenient boogeyman to invade Africa. That's now admitted. The resolution's entered. But the makers of the film went there to propagandize, and the population chased them, trying to stone them, saying, don't try to invade our country. We know what you're doing. No one's seen Joseph Kony in 6 years. I mean, the Africans, they're not living in fantasy land. They know that when the UN says they want to invade to help folks, they know that means get ready to die.
Yep.
What do you make of that, Jim?
I think that's exactly right. You know, the thing is, traditionally, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. traditionally, every time the economy gets in a bind, it's war that gets us out of it. Okay, so they're trying to stir up anything they can. They've had a hard time trying to get us to go against Iran because there's the big risk of getting China and Russia involved. Plus, Iran isn't going to be some pushover like Iraq was. And so they're having a problem with that. So now it's, well, let's go to some African nation. You know, we go to Wali Gamba, and nobody's going to know or care. And so, yes, that's exactly, this is their old modus operandi, okay? So it's nothing new. It's exactly what they try. And, of course, once you get a war started, then you have to rally around the chief, and you have to, you know, support the troops, and you have to, you know, the same old bromides. And look at the, speaking of the chief, look at the past few months, man. Oh, man, is it Centauri? Is it Sarah Palin? Is it Romney? God, they're all fighting, and they say this and they counter with that. And by the way, don't even mention Ron Paul. I mean, he's just a nut and he can't win. So for goodness sakes, don't look at him. Let's don't include him in the debates because he offers a real alternative. But through all of that, where was our attention on Barack Hussein Obama? It wasn't there. He's just skating, isn't he? He's got a free ride, doesn't he?
He does, man, and he is power grabbing.
And he's been doing, you know, he's run up the biggest deficit in U.S. history. He's reneged on every single one of his campaign promises. He's created all these czars that have no real experience in government or business, and yet they're now trying to redefine our whole society. I mean, never mind the whole constitutional issues that are involved with the White House right now. It's incredible, and yet he's getting a free ride because the mass media keeps us distracted with just almost anything and everything else.
What do you think the flashpoint is? Do things just continue to rot, or do you see some upheaval coming?
Well, I see some upheaval, but unfortunately I don't see it stemming from an irate population. I see it coming because of external forces, more earthquakes, more tsunamis, more volcanoes, more tornadoes, geophysical changes, and then, of course, that would precipitate economic collapse, too.
What do you think's driving that? I mean, obviously, if we pay Al Gore money, that's not going to fix it. Why do you think there are statistically more earthquakes and things happening? There was a tsunami, as you know, yesterday at Japan.
Right. Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you what. They've been predicting that a massive body is coming into our solar system.
Stay there. I should add, best-selling author Jim Marrs is with us. His website is jimmarrs.com. And Jim, of course, is a best-selling author. You were getting into...
Well, you asked me why I thought that all these earth changes, these geophysical changes are taking place. And number one, I don't know. And in fact, I'm not sure anybody knows for sure, or if they do, they're not telling us. But what I was saying is that I have news clippings all the way back into the 80s where they were saying that they had evidence that there was some other body that was moving into a massive object moving into our solar system. And what I do know for a fact is that these changes are taking place are not limited to just the Earth. The polar caps on Mars are decreasing, meaning that ice is melting. There's ice on some of the moons of Jupiter.
Yeah, but if you pay Al Gore money, he'd fix it.
Oh, yeah. We just need to put in a carbon tax, and we take care of that. But then sunspot activity is acting very erratic. Ice on these moons are melting. The outer planets becoming more luminescent. Whatever's going on, it's impacting our entire solar system. Now, what exactly that is and what does it mean, I don't know. I'm not sure anybody does. But all you got to do is look around you. I know you've mentioned the seed vault up in Spitsbergen in Norway.
Yeah, the governments and corporations are acting like it's the end of the world. They're all digging in.
That's right. In fact, think about this, folks. Go to the FEMA website and the government website for FEMA, and they will tell you if you're smart, you'll stockpile enough food and water for 3 days, okay? And yet the government is building these huge underground bunker cities, and they're stockpiling enough weapons and food and water to last 10, 20, 30 years. Okay? So what is it they know and that they're not telling you?
And in Switzerland, the public all has at least 2-year supply, underground generators, water, everything, for their low tax rate on the population. Our government, even per capita, spent a lot more, but those are top secret. Only the elite gets to know about those bases, Jim, because the government cares about us.
That's right. Well, you know, all I can think about is when I was a young man, every major city had bomb shelters, fully stocked with food and water and everything else because of the Cold War and the fear that we might have a nuclear exchange. Well, you know, where's the civil defense today? We don't have any because they don't care. They want us dead. And that's another thing, folks. When you listen to Alex Jones and other people like this, and they're hollering and screaming, and they're telling you better watch it, you better do something about all this. Listen, this is not just politics. This is not just getting involved with civics. This is self-defense, okay? Because these people want you dead. And you better understand that, and you better start doing something, or they're going to get their wishes.
And they say they want us dead, and they admit all of this, but it's all in scholarly documents. But more and more they are publicly circulating it, and it's just, we've got to come together. We've got to continue to wake people up and take action. Jim, tell folks briefly, we're about to go to break here, and have to say bye, about your latest book.
Well, I'm working on a book right now that's really going to open some eyes, but I haven't even turned it in, but hopefully it'll be out after the first of the year, and we'll talk at great length at that time. Alex, how's that?
Well, all of them are amazing. The book you did on the Fourth Reich is really, really powerful.
Right, and we see that coming more and more into focus, don't you?
We got crazy people running stuff. Jim Marrs, God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Adios.
All right, there goes Jim Marrs, ladies and gentlemen. JimMarrs.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. We're scheduled to have Bob Barr coming up to talk about the TSA and more on the other side. Some big developments on the TSA front.
What's up with these sorry politicians? Lots of bark. When it's showtime, whimpering like little shih tzus. You want big cuts. Ron Paul's been screaming it for years. Budget crisis? No problem. Got $1 trillion year one. That's trillion with a T. Department of Education? Gone. Interior, Energy, HUD, Commerce? Gone. Later, bureaucrats. That's how Ron Paul rolls. Want to drain the swamp? Ron Paul. Do it.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.